Insta360 seem to have the 360 camera market nailed with various solutions, including the modular 1R and more recently the 1RS, as well as the flagship 360 1-inch edition. Although if you're looking for a middle ground that won't break the bank, this could be an ideal place to start, the Insta360 X3. Released in September 2022, 2 years after the Insta360 X2, the X3 is available in various configurations depending upon your chosen activity, although the different kits simply pack in different accessories. The core camera itself is the same regardless. So the main unit is an upright, stick-like camera, just like its predecessor, along with a threaded mount point on the bottom for attaching a selfie stick or various other accessories for mounting or handheld versatility. When it comes to the latter, it fits comfortably in the hand, despite the lack of room for any ergonomic grip. The sides are plastic with a diamond embossed texture for extra grip, while the front and back are soft touch plastic. No surfaces have the rubberized feel of a GoPro, but the parts you end up worrying about are the glass areas. That's the display glass, which is much larger this time round, and much more importantly, the lenses that are on either side of the main body, meaning you can't lay this thing flat, not without some protection at least. There are no removable, replaceable outer lens elements here. If these lenses are scratched or marked in any way, you're pretty much done for, so care must be taken. Saying that, a camera protective cover is conveniently included in the package, which slips over the camera and covers the lenses as well as the screen for some protection while not in use. That aside, the Insta360 X3 feels right at home in your hand. Just below the screen, along with a status LED, are buttons that start capturing video and flip between front and rear lens views, a bit like the navigation keys on an Android phone. Very handy. Alongside these we have another 2 physical buttons on the side, but it's otherwise largely a touch-led interface, which we'll come back to shortly. Otherwise, those into water-based sports will be pleased to note that X3 is completely water resistant. In fact, it has double the water resistance of the GoPro Max at 10 meters or 33 feet and matches the GoPro Hero 11 Black. Any deeper and you'll want to pick up the Insta360 dive case though, which is available at extra cost of course. Insta360 achieves the X3's water resistance using single-layer rubber seals around the data transfer and charging USB-C port, as well as the battery, which pops out when you release its 2 fastening sliders on either side. A 1800 mAh battery, notably larger capacity than the 1600 of the GoPro Max, which Insta360 claim can last 81 minutes in the 360-degree 5.7K resolution mode, which was about right throughout my testing. With the battery released, we also have a fidgety little port for insertion of a microSD memory card, although I guess that keeps everything internal, and once in place the battery slides over the top, and when clipped into place provides that watertight seal. All in all, a rather nice overall design that seems to work perfectly well for this style of camera. There's little to complain about when it comes to build quality, it's pretty solid overall, although some removable and replaceable lens covers would have added the final touch to an otherwise great design. Using the X3 is a relatively simple affair too, and all rather intuitive. Just like most other action cameras with a touchscreen interface, you'll navigate using standard swiping gestures and tap to access and change settings. It's all rather intuitive, and once you're accustomed to it, the Insta360 X3 is largely a breeze to use, and it looks clear on the 2.6-inch screen too. This screen is probably the single most important design upgrade here. The modular cameras have tiny little square screens, while in the Insta360 One X2 there's a small round porthole. This camera's portrait aspect screen seems huge in comparison, and it's also larger than the GoPro Max's display. A really nice addition, making it better for previewing the picture, as well as making navigating around the menu system easier. Its interface also just looks a lot glossier and more high-end. Bear in mind that it's an upright screen, offering the framing you'll typically see in videos shared on social networks. The orientation doesn't auto-rotate if you turn the camera around either. Saying that, this is an entirely sensible move. Holding the camera sideways is only going to bring your fingers closer to the lenses if you're rolling without a stick, and when you shoot in the single lens mode, the only drawback when shooting at 16:9 is the preview image is smaller. Otherwise though, the menu system seems perfectly fluid, No issue there so far, and the blend of physical buttons with touchscreen control seems to work rather nicely. They include a shutter button alongside a button to switch between the different lens modes, and on the side just beneath the power button we have a quick switch button too, allowing the customization of several different presets and an easy way to switch between them. It all works rather well. When it comes to modes, well, there are plenty to choose from. All the most common shooting modes are covered and easily accessible with a swipe, and yes, FlowState Stabilization is present by default, which continues to work flawlessly. The 360-degree view means there's basically infinite scope for stabilization, and the X3 has horizon leveling to make this effectively automatic. You can also switch on a feature called direction lock when editing your clips, which counters any twisting of the camera, so it appears as though you are holding the X3 straight the whole time. There are plenty of other modes, such as time shift and a me mode, which leverages the slight overlap of the lens's vision to produce a flat clip in which a stick used to mount the camera becomes invisible. Again, all work perfectly well. Of course, part of the parcel with 360 cameras is the software, and Insta360 have always had this nailed across their cameras, making them fun and fairly easy to use as well. We have a phone app with a nice and easy connection process, as well as the ability to quickly update the camera's firmware as and when available. And we can of course play back and edit 360 video to your heart's content, all being quite straightforward and easy to get along with. Great for travelers who want to get some content uploaded while not having access to a computer. On the flip side, we do also have the Insta360 Studio software for your computer, and although both carry very similar toolsets, I do find the process fastest on a laptop, as mouse control just feels that bit more precise than on a phone-sized touchscreen. But either way, you can do a lot here to move around your footage and get the best angle at any time, panning around as the video plays, adding keyframes and the like, while exporting at a resolution and aspect ratio for your intended platform or target audience. All worked perfectly well before and continues to do so with the X3. When it comes to video quality, the Insta360 X3 has two 48 megapixel cameras with half-inch sensors and f1.9 aperture lenses. These are larger and higher res than the 17 megapixel 1/2.3 inch sensors of the GoPro Max and those of the One X2, and they produce some really nice looking footage. Single lens videos require zero editing. You can pull the resulting MP4 file straight off the camera ready to go. Its sharpness is significantly better than the single lens mode of the GoPro Max, which is limited to 1080p. But saying that, there's no comparison to a dedicated action camera, not even close. This was always going to be the case though. The Insta360 X3 lenses have to capture a full 180 degrees, whereas standard action cameras do not, and this mode crops into their view substantially. 4K flat videos are also limited to 30 frames per second, with 60 frames per second available at a lower quality 2.7K resolution. So although the single lens mode is a nice to have, it's not the primary reason to buy this camera. 360 degree video is the main event, and here the Insta360 X3 shines, shooting 360 clips at up to 5.7K resolution, 30 frames per second. Insta360's secret weapon is Active HDR, which you don't get in GoPro cameras. This doesn't affect the frame rate either, and sometimes the results are quite brilliant and give you loads more highlight detail to play with in the edit. It's extremely useful when you're shooting outdoors or when there's partial tree cover up top. One of the tricky parts of shooting 360 video is the exposure level is not just judged on what's in front of you, but your entire surroundings. You won't want to use HDR 24/7 though. It's no good for low light conditions because it restricts the exposure time for each frame, and while it has real image quality benefits, I've noticed more aberrations in HDR clips, like very obvious noise in plain blue sky towards the side of the frame, even on a sunny day. Keep in mind that while the video quality here is very impressive, 5.7K isn't nearly as sharp when it's spread across a full spherical scene, as it is when you shoot with a traditional single wide lens, which covers roughly 160 degrees. This won't be all that noticeable when you're viewing your footage on Insta360's app or another video player, but when you go to export video to a traditional flat format player like YouTube, you will only get a 1920 by 1080 resolution video. That said, the X3 still produces truly impressive video, especially when you remember that this is a camera that's easy to hold with one hand and has the ability to shoot first, frame later, then export to an aspect ratio of your choice. Flexibility is the name of the game here, and Insta360 have it nailed in that regard. Now do bear in mind, I have no affiliation with Insta360 or any action camera company for that matter. I'm not sponsored, and this camera was purchased with my own money, so I'm free to say what and how I like. The truth be told, I did have the odd freeze up, not while capturing video mind, but on the odd occasion where I'd be navigating menus and setting up for a shot, but fortunately these were few and far between. So what it comes down to is this: if 360 degree video is your thing, the new X3 represents the best value camera on the market right now. Insta360's 1RS 1-inch edition produces better results, but it's almost double the price too. If you mostly shoot action footage and occasionally veer into 360, the 1RS is probably the better buy. If nothing else, it's much easier to mount to a helmet, for instance, and comes with the 360 mod for you to dip your toes as and when you need. But for anyone who is sold on 360 footage first and foremost, and just wants to dabble in single lens action footage, then this is the camera to get.